And yes, if the government is trying to influence you, they're going to use influencers. But this is not new to Hollywood. Polanski had the same MO. Take a listen.
Pulled a book from my bag. Barney Hoskins' Waiting for the Sun, a history of LA's music industry. I'd been reading it for research. What with all the rejections I'd gotten, I had a little more free time on my hands than I'd expected, and I wanted Bugliosi to look at a passage I'd highlighted. Hoskins alleged that a few S&M movies had been filmed at the Tate House, and that a drug dealer had once been tied up and flogged against his will at a party there. Other sources, including Ed Sanders' 1971 book, The Family, had made the same claims. But Bugliosi had conspicuously omitted the anecdote from Helter Skelter. Bugliosi seemed to be in the midst of some kind of internal debate. After what felt like a long silence, he told me to turn off my recorder. "This can never be attributed to me," he began. "Just say it's from a very reliable source." Footage, clearly filmed by Polanski, depicted Sharon Tate being forced to have sex with two men. Bugliosi never saw the tape, but he told the detectives, "Put it back where you found it. Roman has suffered enough. There's nothing to gain."
And the name for Rob Polanski parties was Live Freaky, Die Freaky.
But this book is important for other reasons than the book. This shows how they hide information in plain sight by putting out the official narrative. So they get to a narrative first and people will run with it. I did videos on this before. So they did it in the Manson case and they do it today.
After the Tate LaBianca convictions, in '74, Helter Skelter came out, the book. And to this day, it's the best-selling true crime book of all time. And it's a wonderfully written book. I mean, I could take you page by page and show you stuff that's completely fabricated and made up and that contradicts the real record. But like Vince, who's compromised, he'll do what the higher up tell him to do. And if you read in the book, Evel Younger was a district attorney at the time. He was a shady guy who'd been in the OSS, which was the predecessor to the CIA, trained in espionage. I won't say too much, it's in the book. That's where we get speculative. If Vince was answering for something, the explanation is because he didn't go into this case clean. He had to do what he was told. General's race, when she went public, and again with the milkman and mistress, then she sued Vince, same thing. He lied in the depositions, and then when he got caught with the other people who could show that they'd been together and there was a history of they'd had an affair for like 6 months, he resolved it and paid her a substantial amount of money to go away. So this was the kind of person who, when I told Vince I was writing about this in my book, he's like, well, number one, I can't talk about either of those cases because they were resolved and there's non-disclosures. And I go, but Vince, you know that's not true because, I mean, number one, Virginia's dead, she had died, so she can't sue you. And she went public, and so did the Wiesels, the milkman and the mistress. And I wouldn't, I'm not interested in your sordid, personal life. But it's relevant because I'm arguing that you committed crimes in the prosecution of the Manson family, suborned perjury, hid evidence, manipulated the defense by planning an attorney. So if I'm going to, try to make this case and everyone's not going to believe it because you're Vince Bugliosi, this prominent prosecutor author, well, I have to show that there's a pattern in this behavior. Not only that you're lying under oath in the depositions in these two cases before you settle, but you also lied to the police in the Cardwell case, and you lied to the papers in both. If I have that in my book, then people will be more prone to believe that you do the same thing in the Tate LaBianca trial, that you would, break rules to win your conviction.
Okay, so using sex, collecting blackmail on certain individuals in the industry so that you can therefore control him.
Did he have a ghostwriter for Helter Skelter?
No, he had a collaborator, Kurt Gentry. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. So
yeah, and I
sounds
called him.
like an insane person.
Yeah.
Insane person would probably not be able to make such a coherent book.
I know. He had every book he wrote. He had collaborators. The milkman's wife, in her deposition, said that when Gail, Vince's wife, came to her house and knocked on her door and said, "Please do this. My husband's making me crazy. We know that he's the milkman isn't the father of my boy, but just do it to make him stop." And the milkman's wife said, we don't want to have anything to do with you people. Just leave us alone and go away. And she goes, "You don't understand. My husband is mentally ill." He goes, "He'll never stop this. There's nothing I can do to get him to stop." At the end of our 6 hours, I don't remember if I put it in the book. I might not have. He said to me, "Gail thinks I have some psychiatric issues, and she's been trying to get me to go to a doctor forever. So, I'm not saying that this is the reason some of this stuff might have happened, but I do, and I don't even know why he would tell me that." But yeah, so I think that he was able to be manipulated because of these vulnerabilities.
Because he was so compromised. Yeah.
Yeah.
It completely makes sense.
Yeah.
Completely makes sense. Holy shit.
He had a family, a whole other secret family, a daughter and a mistress for the next 30 years. I interviewed the mistress. I didn't put it in the book. I didn't think it was necessary. I guess now I'm telling it, but it actually got reported after he died because the mistress had told a few other people. I'd known about her for years, and I knew he had a daughter who was, at the time of Vince's death, she was in her 30s, I think.
Whatever innocence you have when you realize that this stuff is really going on, and it's a chore to cross over that barrier and realize, oh my gosh, this stuff is really happening. And that's why it takes critical thinking. The people have got to look at this stuff critically and see what they're being fed so they can cross that psychological line that they just refuse to see it when it's right in front of them.
But as I went down this journey, I forced myself to go consider, what if this is real? And the only person that was talking about this stuff was a girl named Liz Crokin. And the media had declared her completely out of her mind. But as I started researching some of the things she was reporting on, I was like, there's truth to what she's saying.
Music group. And why I'm describing this as the mother of all bombs is because he included pictorial evidence of what painted the picture of a homosexual blackmail ring. For me, the heaviest allegation that I thought, if I'm just reading this, this seems very valid, came in the form of pictures from a scene in which Little Rob describes Diddy having allegedly, along with one of his sons, potentially shooting someone. The producer says that he was in the bathroom right when it happened, next to the shooting, but he was terrified as he was in the bathroom. And when he came out after Diddy had shot someone, he was tasked with cleaning it. He, again, produced a picture where you can see blood all around. You can see paper trying to clean up the blood. And you just go, okay, all these paper towels, all this blood, what then happened? Well, he says that everybody that works for Diddy is instructed that if they ever get themselves in this sort of a situation, there's a cleanup guy that you're supposed to call. He named that man as Fahim Muhammad. And Fahim Muhammad will then get the correct LAPD officer over to the scene to produce a fake police report. Very strong allegations, right? And you might go, oh, wow, well, maybe this producer's telling the truth, maybe he's not. Well, what he then shows is that despite the fact that someone in those pictures, at least if those pictures are to be believed, was shot inside of a recording studio, the LAPD police officer took down a report of a drive-by shooting. And then subsequently the next day, the media, or in the coming days, reported a drive-by shooting. But of course, he's saying that's not what happened at all. They know that's not what happened at all. But clearly, this ring has a lot of power. They've got police officers on their payroll. And by the way, in the event that you believe that that's an implausibility in LA, then please do what I have been begging you all to do and read that book, Chaos, because it is exactly that. It describes a network of police officers, prosecutors, and of course, media members who are on the inside of these sorts of things. It describes very much a ring that took place when the Charles Manson, quote unquote, murders happened back in the 60s. So we're just bringing this forward in the form of the Diddy case, the same exact allegations. And most shocking of all was that man, Fahim Muhammad, which I showed on my show, was also one of two people that was there when Michael Jackson died. Yes, one of two people that was there. Somehow that guy was very young when Michael Jackson died, but got this job as the top security person for MJ. And now he is working as a top security person for Diddy. It, again, as I brought up, leads people to revisit those questions and the things that Michael Jackson was saying towards the ends of his life when he was also describing a ring of people in Hollywood. Essentially a gang that is running Hollywood, and a gang that he said was pursuing him. A gang that it is believed lied and convinced the public that he was a pedophile, despite the fact that he was found not guilty of those allegations. Essentially, because he was going after them, they began going after him, if you believe that. Now, again, I find it very strange that this character, Fahim Muhammad, would have contacts, allegedly, with the LAPD, and the media just doesn't seem interested in that whatsoever. Despite, again, an overwhelming amount of evidence being supplied in the form of pictures. What the producer describes, by the way, is that Diddy was the person who was supposed to have these parties to invite young artists to drug them without them knowing that they were being drugged. They think they're drinking, there's drugs, and then he would get them to commit sex acts. Now, whether that was against women, whether that was against men, once he would be recording them, having done these sex acts, he would then forever control them. Again, a blackmail ring that sounds exactly carbon copy to what Jeffrey Epstein was doing to politicians, right? Great way to get control. Now you can run DC, you can run Hollywood, because we got you one night doing this on camera, and now I own you. Now, stepping aside from the producer's allegations, there were other people who had publicly alleged that this is what was going on in Hollywood, Cat Williams being one of them. Take a listen to what he said to Shannon Sharp on his podcast. And this is before the producer had dropped his lawsuit. Take a listen.
I'm quite likely to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times, just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right, because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Can I need to know? You here, get your number.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way. The truth is the light.
I have no more of these.
Amen, amen.
Gee.
So Cat Williams said it. The lawsuit started coming out right after he said it, and he said all would be exposed. And I should make it clear that in this lawsuit, the reason why Universal Music Group is being sued by Lil Rod is because he alleges that it's them that is sitting at the top of this ring. So essentially, Diddy is working for somebody else, and that person that he named in his lawsuit was Lucien Grange. He heavily implied, and this is again an allegation, that Lucien Grange was having some sort of a homosexual relationship with Diddy. So he is the person that controls Diddy, that Lucien Grange was aware of these parties, that Universal Music Group was aware of these parties. Essentially, that Diddy is the thug and the gangster working on behalf of Lucien Grange. That is the takeaway that you get when you read this lawsuit. So how odd that rather than the media being unbelievably interested, as I was, completely seized by this lawsuit, as I was, rather than them asking questions about Fahim, asking questions about Lucien Grange, who's got a very interesting past, changed his name. I don't tend to trust men that change their last names, least of all 3 times, as his family has done. Rather than any of that, they started attacking me for reading the lawsuit, for putting together the clips. How dare you say that there's some sort of a ring? How dare you say, despite the fact that Diddy still has not been arrested. In fact, the LA County is declining to press charges. Despite having the video evidence of him beating Cassie, they are not pressing any charges. How dare I allege that it's pretty obvious that he's an asset? He's clearly a federal asset. That's the only way you can do these sorts of things in broad daylight. You can blow up cars, beat women, and all you have to do is do a video that says, I'm really sorry. He's clearly being protected by somebody who has more power than him and likely has access to the government. How dare Candace Owens say that? You can't say, Lucien Grange is Jewish, by the way. You definitely can't ever allege that a Jewish person was ever in a gang, even though Jewish gangs were running Hollywood and Las Vegas and New York for a while, but we've closed that chapter and now you can't say any of it. You can't talk about any of those people. Am I living in a crazy planet? I mean, seriously, what is happening right now that you see people in the media that are somehow trying to sweep this under a rug as if it's all a conspiracy theory, as if all of the evidence, people that are speaking out, Diddy's own apology alleging some of the actions, what are all these people, just liars? They're all liars? This can't possibly be happening? And as I said, in the first time I covered this, what's interesting about this lawsuit is it alleges that Diddy was smart enough to understand that he needed to record the people that he was working for. So that unbeknownst to them, while Diddy was recording other people, he also was recording them. Lil Rod alleges that when Lucien and Diddy used to disappear into Diddy's bedroom, that Lucien did not know that Diddy had cameras installed in his bedroom. So it's likely that Diddy has got blackmail on the blackmailers. Well, it's plausible, I should say, that Diddy, if all of this pans out to be true, has blackmail on the blackmailers. And perhaps that is the reason why they are slow to prosecute him. Now, again, I'm just putting 2 and 2 together, but why is the media not doing the exact same thing? Instead, what they're doing is their favorite course of action. They're calling everything a conspiracy theory. Just like Piers Morgan did when he rushed to yell at me about talking about Diddy being a Fed asset, even though he admits he didn't even read the lawsuit. Take a listen.
Again, you're being disingenuous because actually you're stating it as fact.
No, what I'm telling people
in the same way you say, I state my entire reputation, Brigitte Macron's a man, you also stated this fact, nothing from a lawsuit. You just said he's not in jail, you tweeted, because he's a Fed CIA asset. Can they try to tell everybody?
No. Have you read the lawsuit? Because it seems like you haven't, obviously.
But that's your statement.
No. Did you read the lawsuit? That's the first thing. Because that we can skip the hyperbole. Did you read the lawsuit?
I'm asking you.
Okay, then we're not going to talk about this topic. So no, he didn't read the lawsuit, but he wants to make sure that I'm not saying that he is a federal asset. And he's not the only one. This is kind of been the perspective. Everyone's a conspiracy theorist that reads the lawsuit. Ben Shapiro also had some similar commentary. Take a listen.
Now, bottom line is that the feds obviously are going to fully investigate this. Now, you're seeing a lot of conspiracy theories out there today, and it's always the same people who participate. It is odd how, if you believe one conspiracy theory, you tend to believe literally all the conspiracy theories. That is the way this tends to work. And all the conspiracy theories tend to center around unnamed, unspecified people who are manipulating the system. It can't just be that there are evil people who are participating in many evil things at any given time around the world, as they all are in cahoots with each other, and there is some grand master scheme, and that all this is a way of shutting Diddy up before he can speak about his paymasters. Okay, well, when the evidence of that emerges, then let me know. Alternatively, P. Diddy is an incredibly rich, incredibly famous celebrity who's been able to sexually gallivant as he pleases for literally 30 years, and then he got caught doing it in criminal ways, which seems pretty plausible to me. I don't see why you need a conspiracy theory to exactly explain that one. But for folks who are conspiratorially minded, the answer is always the same. There's a conspiracy that explains everything. That is, frankly, a very peculiar way to live. That there's always a monster in the closet lurking behind the real monster. Maybe Diddy is just the monster. Maybe it's just that. You don't always need a conspiracy to explain everything, folks. In fact, you very rarely do.
So I think I've talked about this in the past, and I just wholeheartedly disagree with everything that he just said there, because it's not a conspiracy when we are actually reading the lawsuit and looking at all the evidence, and the person did in fact name names. He named Lucien Grange as being the person that sat at the top of the ring and said that he was present when Lucien Grange would come over and go to Diddy's room. So I'm just not clear on the definition of conspiracy. But what I do know is that the history of using that term conspiracy theorist was something that was cooked up by the CIA as an effort to dispel rumors regarding JFK's death. So they recognize that if you keep calling people a conspiracy theorist and you keep saying it's a conspiracy, that people may shy away from the topic. I don't suffer from that. I want to know what's going on, as should every single person in this country, because there should be no individual in the entire world that can beat a woman on camera and not face any charges. That is just an utter insanity. It begs the question as to what is actually going on in Hollywood. And I think the answer is that Hollywood has been being run by a gang with a very long arm, an arm that reaches all the way into the government for a very long time. And so I'm urging people to wake up to these facts and not to be dissuaded because, Piers Morgan says, I'm not going to read the lawsuit, but neither should you. Maybe it's time for us all to start believing our own eyes and believing our own ears and listening to the many people in Hollywood who have tried to speak out about a ring, who have tried to speak out about a gang that is controlling the actions of everyone. Maybe let's stop calling those people who are suffering at the hands of those individuals conspiracy theorists. Maybe they're just victims. That's all I'm going to say.